Well, I was homesick yesterday, but I was listening in my kitchen, and the show was good medicine. Poet and storyteller Tennille Campbell was in studio here in Saskatoon, and over the course of the show, she heard from folks from all corners of this province. Each person helped add an idea or line for our Saskatchewan love poem. And at the end of the show, Tennille shared the poem she created from all of the lovely suggestions from Blue Sky callers. I had FOMO. I was so sad to miss out on this. And so it is too good not to share again. Here is Tennille Campbell reading Blue Sky's love poem to Saskatchewan.
Okay, it's kind of two parts because we were so centric on land, which is very Saskatchewan of us, but we were also very centric on food, which is very us. Okay, this is a rough draft. Don't judge me, but I mean, hey. You are more than the first rain of spring, more than the crackling ice on the South Saskatchewan. You are more than the heat of a prairie sun in a field of wildflowers. You are brighter than the northern lights, as everlasting and legendary too. You are fire burning bright, my guiding light. And you are the first snowfall, a brilliant moment, our time standing still.
Wow.
That's not me, that's y'all.
Congratulations. That I'm speechless. I'm just
They did good. They did so good. And then like the funny part was like, this is the long-term relationships. I love you more than the crispy jumpsticks of LA. I love you more than the tangy pizza of Regina. I love you more than the rink burgers at the Gemini. I love you more than all the Chinese food in all our small towns of Saskatchewan.
love it.
You could not have a more Saskatchewan love poem. Wow. Thank you to everyone who called in, and especially to those who were brave enough to share their own poetry over the airwaves. Tennille Campbell is author of #Indian Love Poems and Neti Nezu. She is currently the storyteller in residence with the University Library at the University of Saskatchewan. She's part of a Valentine's Day event at the Gabriel Dumont Institute tonight. Tickets are free, but seating is limited, so you need to register in advance to reserve a spot.
Hi, my name is Brenda Johnson, and you're listening to Blue Sky on CBC Radio 1. Here is your host, Leisha Grabinski.
Well, it is February 14th, and while many of you may be exchanging heart-shaped cookies or Valentines, we're taking a more literal approach today. We're dedicating the show to the heart. We're going to hear from people who have had life-changing operations. We'll hear from an artist who draws her inspiration from this amazing organ. And we want to hear from you. Tell us your heart stories. 1-800-716-2221 or email bluesky@cbc.ca. Carly King has given a lot of thought to hearts. The Regina artist has been creating anatomically correct clay hearts as part of her art practice. And last night, her heart show opened at Government House in Regina. She is in our Regina studio to tell us more. Carly, hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Blue Sky.
Thank you.
So you brought a few of your hearts into studio with you. Can you maybe just hold them up and describe them for people?
I brought a couple different hearts. This one, this heart has an imprint on it from a plant. I believe I use different plants to imprint on the hearts, cabbage, rhubarb, things like that. So that's what this one's about. And then I use a oxide wash, like an iron material, to bring out the darkness. And then some of the hearts I've made are like this one. This is just straight up stoneware clay with no impressions on the surface. And I've made other kinds as well, pink ones, ones that look like chrome. There's a variety. Red clay. I've used dark, what's called coffee clay. So a whole variety of hearts.
How big are they? I can't see them, but you're holding this in one hand. Is it the same size of what an actual heart would be?
Yeah, so your heart is the size of your fist. So keeping that in mind, I've made all sizes. So I have made even small hearts that would be for, a 2-year-old. And then hearts like this one's a little bit larger, and there was a series that were darker and even larger that would resemble actually a diseased heart. So yeah, all different shapes and all different sizes, but relatively around the size of a fist, because that's the size of your heart.
What got you interested in creating hearts?
Well, this came out of actually a really difficult time in my life. So at about 7 or 8 years ago, I was going through a separation, and I was, all of a sudden a single mom of 2 little kids, and I was having a lot of transition in my life. So a lot of grief and a lot of loss at that time. Now, at the same time, I kept having sort of like a vision, or I kept seeing this clay heart in my mind's eye, and that's usually how my art or my creative projects come to me. I'll see them before I go about making them. So I kept seeing this clay heart. And looking back, I can see how the two relate. But at the time, I was too involved in what was going on in my life to sort of put 2 and 2 together. But I kept seeing this heart. And then I moved to Regina, and the Dunlop Art Gallery used to have this cute little art shack outside the library that they would run residencies during the summer. And so I applied to do a residency and asked if I could have the time to finally make some of these hearts. And that's how it started. My application was successful, and so I started making hearts in their art shack.
So I was making hearts with my children on the weekend. We did some salt dough hearts and just used a heart cutout, and they kind of look like those candy hearts. My daughter put the names of all the kids in her class on those hearts. So those are the hearts that I made, but you're doing something that's much more elaborate and intricate. Like you did a lot of research, right? Before you started creating these hearts. What are the things that you learned before you started creating?
So when I first started, I actually would have, I had like medical textbooks and anatomically correct photographs in front of me as I was creating, because I wanted to make sure I had the valves correct and that type of thing. And then as I created the hearts, because I've now made hundreds of hearts, it's kind of, the old adage, like learn the rules before you break them. So I would make the hearts pretty as accurate as I could at the time. But as I went along, then I had more creative freedom, let's say. So then I usually work in series. So sometimes I would make a series of, white hearts, or sometimes I would make a series of darker hearts. And those would be more loosely translated. Like some of them, they're not as anatomically correct, but they're still very much alluding to the parts of the heart.
And what were some of the most interesting things that you learned about this organ?
Well, I've learned a lot, I've got to say, as I've gone along. But so some things along the way that have really stuck out is, one is that the heart is actually, embryonically speaking, is the first organ to form, and then our brains actually develop after that, out of the heart.
Wow.
I know.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I think because I feel that we're kind of a brain-centered culture or a mind-centered culture, that really took me off guard when I found that out. And I'd heard about this quite a while ago, and I had the fortune to read like medical documents or kind of recordings of this. But the heart also has like a consciousness to it. And so a lot of people, for example, who receive heart transplants, they will have memories or inclinations or preferences of the people who they received the heart transplant from. So that was another thing that really has stuck with me, learning about the heart.
Wow, incredible. So every heart you make is different, and you said that some of the hearts you're creating are affected by disease, or like some are damaged. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that. What you weren't creating something perfect. You were creating something that has a story.
Yes, and when you asked about learning about hearts, that's actually for me been one of the, most enlightening experiences of this creative process. So when, just to back up a bit, so when I was making the hearts in the Dunlop's Art Shack, I started noticing that because people would come by and they'd sometimes ask if they could hold the heart. And when that happened, a lot of people after holding the heart would have sort of like a cathartic release, or they would share a narrative. They would share something really personal about their heart, like whether it was heartbreak or a health-related condition. So there was something that artistic, it was its own art, so to speak, about holding the heart, and then people would feel safe to share. So having said that, a lot of people, once they've held the heart, they would, if they got to see them in real life, they would purchase a heart that spoke to them in that way. And so to kind of tie it back to you asking about the diseased hearts, when I had a series of hearts, for example, like one series I made diseased hearts, and I didn't even know I was making diseased hearts. It was just a dark period. I had them all really, dark and kind of little bit like gothic looking almost. And they were on exhibit in the Saskatchewan Craft Council. And there was a doctor there, and he specialized in hearts, and we just happened to be in the gallery at the same time, and he had mentioned that those hearts were like, they were basically like diseased hearts. And ironically, though, those are the hearts that were most popular. So to take it a step further, because they're clay, they do break, like you had mentioned. So sometimes valves will, break off, or pieces like that. And so at first, as I was making them, I kind of kept them to the side, thinking people wouldn't want them, or because they were flawed, that they, maybe people wouldn't appreciate them. But I was really wrong about that. Just like the diseased hearts being popular, when the hearts broke, they actually there's been some really kind of unusual circumstances where the hearts end up making it to people who have a similar heart condition to what's broken on the heart, and the people who receive them don't actually know that. And so to give you an example, like the hearts on the back have 2 holes so that you can hang them on the wall. And so when I'm poking the backs out to make the holes, sometimes the clay will get inside, and then when I fire them, they'll be like a little bit like a rattle. And so for example, like I'll take a photo of the heart and I'll put it on Instagram or my social media, and someone will see it. And then one lady asked if she could purchase that heart. So she did. And when she received it, it had a rattle. And she actually has, I believe it's called arrhythmia, when your heart has a murmur.
Yeah.
So things like that. Another person, again, purchased a heart that had the side, the left ventricle was damaged, and she didn't see that in the photo. She got the heart actually for a friend. And then when she received the heart, same thing, she has damaged on her left ventricle. And she was like, this is kind of a weird coincidence. So ended up keeping the heart because it was, representative of what she was going through.
Wow, Carly, really powerful stuff. You really are the perfect person to start things off for this show today, where we're literally talking about hearts for the next 45 minutes. So thank you for sharing some of the stories of your own hearts, and you've really set the stage for the rest of the stories to come. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That's Carly King, a Regina artist. Her exhibit Heart Happenstance is at the gallery at Government House until March 16th. I'm Leisha Grabinski. You're listening to Blue Sky here on CBC Radio 1. Today we are focusing on hearts. If you have a story, your own heart story, you can call us 1-800-716-2221. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. Well, when words failed her, Adrienne Mahoney turned to music to help her express gratitude and tell a story. And it is one incredible story of facing death head on and the lessons learned along the way. 6 years ago, Adrienne was a competitive kickboxer and a well-loved musician and arts educator at Thompson Community School in Regina. In September of 2017, she went to the Regina General Hospital with symptoms of lung and heart failure. She was diagnosed with an extremely rare autoimmune disease which shut down part of her heart, leaving it unable to pump on its own. She relocated to Edmonton for treatment, and the last few years have been an incredible roller coaster and a testament to Adrienne's incredible resilience. In 2019, Adrienne received a life-changing gift, a new heart. And as soon as she recovered, she started thinking about ways to thank the family of the donor for this incredible gift. Over the last few years, Adrienne and her musician friends created a musical thank you. I spoke to Adrienne and her friend and musical collaborator Rob Daknowicz in the fall. Here's part of our conversation. Adrienne, I want to know more about this experience in your own body because, I mean, I've known very few people, like very, very, very few people know what it's like to have someone else's heart beating in their body. So what has that experience been like for you?
It's absolutely surreal, and one part of my brain tries to be, the super rational, logical, scientific person, and then the other half of me goes, yeah, there is sort of this very, very surreal quality, and it's not a bunch of, kind of, I guess you could say, like, and people ask me this all the time, like, oh, did your personality change, or did you start craving new foods, or, you get all the superstitions that kind of come with it, and at first I would kind of just try to shirk that off and be like, oh, no, but I can definitely tell you that when you wake up, at least for me, after a heart transplant, my experience was a lot changed. And there's been moments, and very specific moments, and it's not planned, it's not faked, you can't channel it, it just happens, where it's undeniable that I'm not traveling alone anymore, if that makes sense. When I've achieved certain things I never thought I would achieve, whether that be like climbing a mountain, touring with my band, tracking this album, I haven't felt alone, if that makes sense. And whether that's, just a complex stew of things coming together, I don't know. But I truly, truly believe that there is something inside of me that changed after that. And I try to honor everything I do now with that in mind, that I'm not traveling alone.
I think one thing that kind of isn't ever talked about in this situation is Adrienne was on an LVAD for a year and a half. Now, with an LVAD, you do not have a heartbeat and you don't really feel it in your chest. Mm-hmm. And so I think consciously waking up from that transplant surgery with a beating heart, like I don't think anybody can really imagine it without being in that situation. But because no regular people don't notice their heart beating in their chest, but I'm sure that was a very loud and pounding situation when you actually came out.
100%, and thank you for pointing that out, Rob. It was overwhelming, and like he said, I didn't have a pulse for a year and a half. I was cyborg level. I always joke it's Ghost in the Shell anime style. I was living inorganically with no pulse, and then to basically come out of sedation after, and when you're finally off all of the heavy narcotics and everything, kind of you wake up, and that is very firm in my mind. I remember that feeling of, I felt like 1,000 drummers pulsing on my skin, and you feel a completely different reality. And I mean, with time, obviously that's normalized. I don't feel that way every single day, but a conscious awareness of what a heartbeat feels like, again, is the weirdest thing after you haven't had it. And even when you're first extubated and you take your first breath, it's something I can't even put into words what that feels like for a person. And you're right, Rob, it is a very strange switch between mechanical and organic and the conscious level of that.
Can you walk us through some of the sounds that we hear?
Absolutely. So that is kind of an interesting kind of caveat to the story is when we set out building this piece, Rob was my caregiver from beginning all the way to the end and after transplant. And so he understood in ways that other people didn't about even the sonics of, when I had this LVAD, this piece starts with the actual sampling of this device in my heart. So the actual audio that opens the track is this ostinato of what you're going to hear is basically just mechanical repetition, and that's my actual heartbeat that would have probably been recorded in 2018 coming through a pickup of a guitar, and we recorded it microphonically that way. And so that starts the journey of the song, because this song is very much trying to tell the narrative of a really surreal experience. And at the very end of the piece, you could say it's a bookend, trying to show those completely different contrasts, and what you end up with is my current organic heartbeat, and that was consciously put at the end of the piece because I wanted the final voice to be the person who saved my life, and honoring them and dedicating it, and that was the final gift to loved ones and relations, and that was why that felt more powerful to me than just, writing a thank you letter. I wanted to give whoever was out there an opportunity to hear that maybe one more time, and just also knowing that, that heartbeat, trying to reassure that I'm going to do everything in my power to protect that gift that I've been given.
What's it like to listen to it, Adrienne?
It's surreal. It brings up a lot of memories, some good, some bad. But I think, like anything, embracing both sides of that and understanding, just how sacred and precious life is.
Adrienne, it's not just the heart transplant you mentioned. You've also battled cancer. You've had several surgeries over the past couple of years. So how has that changed the way you live your life?
It's absolutely fundamentally changed. Probably the most succinct way of saying it would be, I felt like in some ways, without realizing it, I was maybe sleepwalking through life. And that's not to take anything away from the validity of the goals I had previous to this, but I look at how such small things that nowadays I look back and go, why did I waste time worrying when all we have is time? So I think for me, the whole experience has taught me to value the present, the here, the now, and the sacredness of that can disappear in literally a blink of an eye, a heartbeat, right? And so I guess nowadays I approach things in a much simpler way. My goals are much more simple, but I think in a way that's more complex because it's acknowledging that, it's bigger picture, not just focusing on myself. It's not about ego. It's not about accomplishments. It's about connectivity, and how I use my time a bit more. And so for me, like going on a hike, seeing one more sunset up in my little sky forest. I take a lot of time. I call it my sky forest. It's by my neighborhood. And watching one more sunset, that is more profound to me. And so I've said to Rob, and I've said to a lot of people, that if I just get one more sunset, that's what I'm pushing for, And I think 6 years ago, if you asked me what my big goal was, it would have been something probably far more, verbose or whatever, complicated. And I think it's looking at life in a little bit more simple terms.
Adrienne Mahoney worked with her musician friends to create a musical tribute to the person and family of the person who donated their heart to her. The album was a fundraiser for Edmonton's University Hospital Foundation, the Mazankowski Heart Institute Cardiac Life Support Programs. And we're happy to update folks with the news that Adrienne's metal band is releasing an album on March 8th. The release show will be at the Exchange in Regina on March 9th. Rock on, Adrian. You're listening to Blue Sky here on CBC Radio 1, 94.1 FM in Saskatoon, 102.5 FM in Regina. It's Valentine's Day, and so we're using this as an excuse to talk about the heart. Now, like many athletes, Regina's Ian Fife pushed his heart to its limits. In 2016, Ian ran the Queen City Marathon faster than anyone else there. He ran the marathon in 2 hours, 35 minutes, and 2 seconds. The next year, the then 29-year-old woke up in the night, unable to breathe. His heart was failing him. So to help us understand what came next, we've reached Ian on the line. Ian, hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. Take us back to that night where you experienced heart problems. What woke you up?
Well, funny story. I didn't actually wake up. I have no memory of this. But from what I was told, the last thing I remember was a Friday night. I went to bed at my girlfriend, now wife's house. And then the next thing I remember, it was Sunday night. And I was in the heart unit at the Regina General. So what I was told happened was on the Saturday morning early morning in the middle of the night, essentially my heart went through a ventricular fibrillation, which is, I'm probably explaining this not accurately, but it starts misfiring and so essentially not beating. So I wasn't able to breathe, and had that continued, it wouldn't have ended well. Thankfully, my girlfriend, now wife, was there and was able to do CPR and call the ambulance. And from then on, I've been completely fine. So it was a good news story in the end.
Yeah, but I have lots of questions. So I guess first off, how did your girlfriend at the time know what to do?
Well, she works in childcare, actually, so she's certified in CPR. So thankfully, when this was happening and I wasn't able to breathe, she knew what to do. She called called the ambulance, did CPR, and thankfully they came. I think they were there within a minute, and the paramedics did their thing, and here I am.
A very, very scary thing, I'm guessing, hey?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I have no memory of it. So the whole idea of it's scary, but and I know for people around me, especially her, it was very scary. For me, I'm just really thankful, thankful.
So what is the explanation for this? How did you go from running a marathon like that fast to being someone who's experiencing heart issues like this?
From what I'm told, it is a completely random freak event. The cardiologists that have cared for me, they said they have nothing to link it to running. So I think it probably would have happened whether I was a runner or whether I wasn't. I was a runner before that happened, and I'm still a runner, slightly slower, but still a runner. So from everything I understand, this has nothing to do with running.
Wow. So how has this affected your life?
The only thing it's really affected, I find, is I just savor every day now. Before it happened, I was a healthy 20-something, felt like I'd obviously lived forever. Now I'm healthy 30-something, and I'm really hopeful I'll live forever, but you never know. So I'm a lot more thankful for every day.
So is this something that you need to constantly check in on? Are you seeing a cardiologist regularly now, or is it something that happens once and you hope never happens again?
Yeah, well, I have right afterwards, I had a device implanted in me called an ICD, implanted cardioverter defibrillator. It's similar to a pacemaker. So it's a computer that constantly reads my heart. And if anything goes wrong again, it would give it a shock, almost like the paddles. And it's so high tech that it actually sends signals directly to the hospital at a few times a year, so they can evaluate me very regularly, and then I go in once a year to see the cardiologist. So yeah, that'll be the rest of my life, but I can't say it's an imposition at all. It's pretty, I've really just kept going.
Wow, though, to have a major event like this at such a young age, and I feel like I've been affected by all the stories we've heard so far on this show, just, reflecting on this organ that is so essential to our being, right? So has this changed the way that you think about your heart?
Yeah, more so just I'm much more aware of it. Like I'm much more like I still occasionally get like maybe events where it beats oddly for a few seconds, then goes back to normal. I'm told that's fine, but I'm much more aware of it. Whereas in the past, I would have just dismissed it as nothing. Now I've always got kind of an eye or an ear to what my heart's doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then it might just be part of getting a bit older as I probably live a healthier lifestyle than I did then. But I mean, it's still pretty much similar. Like I was a runner then, I'm a runner now, but I'm much more conscious of doing everything right for my heart.
And your girlfriend, who's now your wife, has it
Yeah.
changed her perspective on life at all? Do you think? This happened to you, but it happened to her too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I know it was certainly very impactful for her, and we still talk about it every now and again. But yeah, like I would almost say it was more of an experience for her, as I really, my only knowledge of it is what she told me about it.
Wow.
But,
Well, lucky to have her next to you, and so good to talk to you today, Ian. It's quite something to hear these heart stories. So thanks for being one of our guests today.
well, thanks for having me.
That's Ian Fife, who lives in Regina. That fast-acting girlfriend is now his wife. According to the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada, there are approximately 60,000 cardiac arrests that occur outside of hospital each year. 8 in 10 cardiac arrests occur in public places or at home, and only 1 in 10 survive a cardiac arrest that happens outside a hospital. Performing CPR, combined with the use of an automated external defibrillator within the first few minutes, doubles the chance of survival. I'm Leisha Grabinski. This is Blue Sky. We do have a caller on the line who has their own heart story. So let's say hello to Heather in Regina. Hi, Heather.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Heather Ferris. I'm on the other side. I'm the person who was the girlfriend who witnessed the boyfriend have the cardiac arrest.
But not Ian. You've got your whole other story here, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. The guy it happened to, my now husband, he can't remember all of this stuff, so I'm the one to tell the story. We were just at my home. He was about to go, and before he was going to leave, he wasn't looking so well. And I asked him, well, do you think you're having a heart attack? And he said no. And I kind of believed him, sort of, because he knows about these kinds of things. Well, before you know it, he was gone. And I ran, grabbed my phone, called 911, and started CPR right away. Thank goodness for the training I've been given. Later on, and, the EMS and the fire department was there right away, so that was awesome. And they worked really, really hard on him. His heart stopped 5 times, and they had to keep restarting it.
Oh my gosh. I want to back up a minute though, Heather. When you say he was gone, so you're like, did he collapse? Is that what happened?
Yeah, he was gone. I knew that there was no heartbeat and that he wasn't with me at that moment, and I wasn't going to let that remain that way. Mm-hmm. There was no way I was going to let that happen. So I just thought to myself, break these ribs. I got him on his back on the ground, and I was just with all my might. And felt like forever, but honestly, all the medical professionals were there really, really quickly, and so I was within 4 or 5 minutes. They were working on him. Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, I got into the supervisor who was on site told me to get ready, that we were leaving the house, and he got into the ambulance, and I got into the supervisor's vehicle, and we went to the emergency at the general hospital, where they're amazing. And his heart stopped again there, and he code blued, and they got him started again. And the amazing thing I found was that they took me up with him in the elevator to the cardiac care unit, which, thinking back, I thought how the humanity in that, letting me be with him. So he got a stent put in. We were given really bleak news by Dr. Degani, but he's amazing. And 24 hours later, after coming out of an induced coma, it was supposed to take him a while to, later on in the day, he would be awake, but not this guy. They took him off the sedatives, and in an hour and a half, he was awake and asking for me. So,
and then what happened?
Well, then we sat on the edge of his bed. After a few hours, he was able to sit up, and he said to me, I always knew I was going to ask you, but I didn't think this was how it was going to happen. But apparently I can't live without you, so will you marry me? And I said yes. And then he promptly forgot, because folks who have gone through this have no short-term memory. But fortunately, he asked me 2 other times on 2 other occasions. So 3.5 years later, we got married.
Oh my goodness! As you're telling this story, I can tell that there's still a lot of emotion there for you.
Oh, it's a really emotional story, and we had 5 grandkids at that, or 2 grandkids at the time. Now we have 5, so 3 little beings that wouldn't have known this amazing guy.
Oh my goodness! Oh, it obviously, has it changed your perspective on life and his perspective on life? Do you find yourselves living differently after something that huge?
Absolutely. I always say, you think your life's one way, and then in an instant it's not. So really appreciate every second. He's here with me if you'd like to chat with him for a second.
Sure. Let me say hello.
Okay, here's Bobby.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well, thanks. You've probably heard her tell this story a few times.
Oh, yeah.
What's it like
A
to be
lot.
listening right now?
Well, still, like you said, it's emotional. And I do appreciate every day. Like, I just think back to the day that happened and what I would have missed out on, like in the last 9 years. And like just seeing the grandkids and that, and get to see them grow or whatever. Like, I super appreciate it. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like there's no feeling like it, to be honest with you.
Do you approach each day differently now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I just appreciate everything a lot more. You know what? And it's funny, the simple things are so much better. Like that's our favorite saying is we try to keep our life simple. Because when you go through something like this, you don't want to go through anything even near whatever. So, yeah, the simpler life is, the better for people.
Yeah. Well, a beautiful story.
Yeah.
It's probably the best Valentine's Day story I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah. No, it is. Trust me. Everyone that goes by, we appreciate it even more. So, yeah, no, it's been really good.
Well, thanks, Heather, for calling us. And Bob, thanks for jumping in on the call, too. It's been great talking to you today. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a great Valentine's Day.
Yes, same to you guys. Happy Valentine's Day. It's Heather and Bob joining us in Regina. Now, so many of us know someone who's had a heart attack, and conversation during the healing process often revolves around, a heart smart diet or non-strenuous activity. There is this whole other kind of healing that has to take place too. People have to learn to trust their bodies again and are left searching for ways to be kinder to their hearts going forward. Rosa Haynes is still recovering after having a quintuple bypass surgery in December. It's only February. This just happened in December. And she's been giving more thought to her heart than ever before. Rosa, hello.
Hi there.
Thanks for being with us, and thanks for listening to all these stories. I don't know, it's made me a bit emotional. What's it been like for you?
I am so emotional. Like, such amazing stories, and like right from the artist to the athlete to the person who was saved. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, it truly is. And your story, what happened to you, Rosa?
I was just, for the past few years, my sister had been convincing me to ask for us an angiogram. Not that there was any need for that. I didn't have high cholesterol. I was on a very small dosage of a cholesterol pill of 2.5. Anyways, my doctor sent me in for a stress test, and it just turned out that, the cardiologist was alarmed by what she saw, even though I did go quite a bit, they said I went for a long enough time with a heavy load, whatever that means. I guess the incline, was there. So, but I was just pushing through because my heart always, I guess in the last few years, has been feeling like this. And I'm just used to the feeling of that heart. But I was then rushed to do an echocardiogram the week after, and then an angiogram. And basically after the angiogram, it took very little time because I was blocked. So I was done in like a minute, and the doctor said, yeah, you've got 5 blockages, and the cardiologist is going to come and talk to you now. And he told me I was 95% blocked in my major aorta.
That's massive, isn't it?
So yeah, so they said, you're not going anywhere. We're going to do this tonight or tomorrow morning. I'm just going to figure out things in the OR. So they didn't release me. I thought I was coming back home after my appointment.
Did this catch you off guard?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But after the cardiologist, there was two of them, they explained the symptoms and especially how they're manifested in women. I began to put two and two together and I thought, I've been feeling those things. I've been going through those exact same things. And I guess I just thought it was part of the course. Maybe I didn't sleep enough, or maybe I was, tired, or you always say, oh, you're getting older, you got to take it easy. But I just noticed that there were things there that were specifically like, even like jaw pain, like there was, jaw pain. And like I'm a teacher in school. And so we'd sing "O Canada," and I couldn't get through "O Canada" without having to stop and, turn around, massage my jaw, let the kids continue to sing. And
really, but you didn't think anything of that prior to this. It was just a thing.
Yeah, it was just a thing. And I noticed it had been coming on, like, for a little while. So it's a gradual thing that happens, so you don't feel it creeping up on you. And I would say now that I'm doing lots of reading, I'm trying to figure out, just trying to get more information about the heart and women. I realize that there's a certain time that, is very important for heart in women. And that's when you're pregnant and when you're in menopause, that there's a big correlation in heart health and what happens to the heart. So I think there seems to be a lacking of information, or there seems to be needing more studies of, women in menopause and once they're in menopause or perimenopausal stage in life. It just doesn't seem to be enough understanding of that, or, education, I guess, to the public.
I've heard that. And I think, that there is starting to be an understanding that how this might present in men is different than how it presents in women. So the jaw thing, I had no idea. That's completely new to me. What else was happening to your body that now you can, with hindsight, go, okay, that was connected?
Well, I was, I would speak and I would lose there would be not enough breath to finish my sentence, and I thought, oh, whatever, didn't come out, I'll say it again, or I would have a really, really strong pangs of tiredness, of fatigue. And it was quite strong. And it was like nausea would come on with the fatigue. And it would be in things like, not that I'm a big TV watcher, but if I ever sat down with my family to watch something, it was like, I couldn't stick through the whole movie or show, no matter how interesting it was. Or even I'd get these feelings also when I was driving. So it was, and you just think, oh, I'm just tired, or I can shake this off. But it was really clingy, this feeling, and very nauseous. So I noticed that to be really different. I noticed that in my HIIT classes or the workouts I was doing with, myself and friends, I couldn't get to the same place that I was, the previous year, the year before that. I kept thinking, oh, it's going to feel so great, in 5 years from now, because I had been working on a really nice exercise routine for the past 7 years. I dance, I teach dance as well. So I know my body quite well, but I just couldn't believe how much I couldn't do. Like sometimes I would direct the kids to dance and say, I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to direct you. But like I would always dance with them, which is really weird, right? Like just little things like that I was just tossing off as like, oh, well, maybe I'm tired.
Yeah. Which is such a, busy women, right? Often there's like, there's a million reasons for why you're so tired. So as you do this reflecting and like you said, reading books and trying to understand what happened to you, is there more happening here? Like what other kind of healing are you undertaking right now? Aside from like the actual like physical heart things, what else is happening now as you work towards healing?
Well, I think a lot of reflection and stepping back and really knowing what I can just sort of release and give up. Like I was probably just carrying too many and juggling too many things, at once. And I have to just sort of say to myself, what do I really want to do? Like if my life had ended, would I have been happy? Because I've been given a second chance, honestly. After the operation and in the exercise I'm doing, which is walking right now, I feel my heart so much lighter. So I just feel that I'm learning to, I guess, prioritize what is more important, and just what's more important basically, and trying to I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful and thankful for the doctors that were around me, that people who my sister for suggesting, my doctor for listening, and sending me forth, and my family for being there, and friends for all the support they've given me. Like I couldn't get through this without all of this, this big team. So I'm very grateful.
Must be a difficult thing, though, to digest that this is a second chance. Like that's a pretty heavy thing.
Yeah, for sure it is, because a part of you thinks, what can I do to give back now?
Yeah. Do you think this will be a shift in? I mean, you've talked about this already, that you're reevaluating things, but this is a pretty big shift, isn't it, in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really. Yep. It really is. I feel like I'm trying to reimagine how, like once I'm off, I'm not at work right now, but once I go back into the workforce, I'm trying to reimagine what I would be doing differently, or even what would I be doing.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to talk with you about it today, Rosa. It's very generous of you so soon after to make time for us. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's Rosa Haynes, who's recovering after an unexpected quintuple bypass surgery in December. Quite a moving hour here on Blue Sky, hearing people's heart stories. If you've been listening and you think, I've got something to share, you could always email us, bluesky@cbc.ca, or you could call our talkback number, 1-800-661-7540.